Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Atul Khosla. Delighted to welcome you to this episode of LEH Dialogue. I'm so thankful, by the way, you're making time for this. I know it's pretty late in the evening for some of our colleagues who are in Asia, and very early for people like me. It's about 7 in the morning here in Chicago. But like any other initiatives or conversations we have in LEH, I'm so excited and looking forward to this. So today, I'm delighted to share our guest for the dialogue. His name is Pavan Bhatia. He's an iconic human being. The kind of work he's done, the kind of life he has lived, we are going to unfold in this conversation. But I think more than anything else, Pavan has been a great friend of mine for last 28 years when I met him for the first time. And I've been like a fan following him, watching him grow, and watching our friendship kind of get stronger by the day. But a lot of it was to do with the way he shows up or he chooses every day how he wants to show up and impact lives around him. So when I was rolling out or starting or dreaming about LEH, a lot of people inspired me to do what I needed to do. A lot of people supported me, and a lot of people gave me insights and ideas how to shape my own thinking for this chapter of my life. Pavan is one of those. Someone I leaned on, someone I connected with, and got a lot of insights and support. So it's a little selfish to say because all the dialogues are important. I was reviewing with our team. We have done 16 of these in last couple of years or so. But today, it's selfishly, I'm really keen and curious to be in this conversation with Pavan. We speak often, but it's on a different platform. So thank you, everyone who's made a choice to join us today. So very quickly, how the session is going to look like. So we will have a brief introduction about LEH, which typically I do to give you a sense of who we are and what we do. And then I'm going to talk a little about Pavan. Not a lot because I want him to share his life and inspire all of us. And then I have some questions for Pavan, which I will bring up. And then, of course, this is a dialogue. So the conversation is open to everyone who's on the call. So you can go unmute and bring your question up. Or the best way so far in our dialogues is that anytime you have a question, put it in the chat box or dialogue box. So we will bring up your questions to Pavan. So next few minutes is our opportunity to get inspired from the life story of my dear friend and someone who has made choices in life to engage, inspire, and develop others, Pavan Bhatia. So before I go on to Pavan, let me quickly talk about what is LEH and what we do. So if we move to the next slide, please. You see a lot of faces and a lot of people here. Elliot started in 2021, May, just an idea that we want to create an alternate narrative of leadership where people are happy, they live a positive life, and they create a positive impact on others, inspiring them to be at their best. A lot of this came from my own learning in the corporate world, where we are so busy and focused on being at our best that we forget about enabling others, inspiring others, and giving others an opportunity to be your capacity and allow you to create the impact you can. So, my own learning has been that once you are in that space, your efficiencies, outcomes, performance become a byproduct. So at LEH, we've been doing a ton of work in the last couple of years, and I'm so proud to have my team on the call right now. It's probably not enough time to introduce everyone, but we have every member of the LEH team who's been working on this. Two people I specifically want to call out because they are critical in setting up these dialogues. Sophia and Irish, they are the ones who work relentlessly set up these dialogues. Can I request, by the way, everyone to go on mute so that we can have a smooth conversation? When you have a question, you can go on mute. So we run programs which are more focused on enabling leaders to connect with their core and expand and enhance their impact on people around them. Can I request everyone to go mute, and then we can open up when you need to chat. It's a little bit of a background noise I'm hearing. So we run programs where we help leaders and work with leaders to give them an opportunity to reset their stories, Elliott journeys, Elliott immersive sessions, and more customized solutions. And then we run initiatives, which are like the Elliott Dialogue. You are part of it. We run an Elliott mentoring program. Currently, over 250 mentees across the world have benefited from the mentoring program we run, giving people aspirations and hope to become who they are. I'll be requesting Irish to play a quick video and then which talks a little bit about our journeys, and then I'll move on to Pavan. Irish, can we play the video, please?
Leadership at Humanity is a movement dedicated to igniting humanity in business leadership. Our leadership journeys are aimed at helping senior leaders to live a fuller life, inspire their teams to be at their best, and deliver superior outcomes. LEH Leadership Journey is a deep, immersive experience in which leaders walk with a small group of other leaders to discover and reconnect with their core and reset their life story to build a legacy. LEH Leadership Journey is a modular program. Module 1 is designed to help leaders to set a baseline of their current story, helping them to assess their impact on others as a human being. Every leader is assigned a personal change partner, a senior coach, who helps build a deeper awareness of the leader's impact on others through a customized diagnostic process. Module 2 is a 1-week in-person offsite designed to create a pause to learn, reflect, and commit to a new life story, who they would like to be. In a unique blend of experiential and cognitive learning, practices, reflections, and action planning, this experience helps leaders to bring clarity on who they can be. They not only learn about the new possibilities, but they also get to practice the change which they can embody, to let the world experience the real, unique human they are. Consistent repetitions of a new behavior have the potential to make it a habit. With that in mind, Module 3 is aimed at supporting the leaders to nurture their new story, deploy new behaviors, and embody the change. Their personal change partners walk with them, holding their hands through their change journey to the conclusion. The final phase of the journey, its conclusion, celebrates the transformation, providing leaders tools and guidance to stay the course and change their life and that of others forever. If you want to change your life, you need to change your story. LEH journeys help change the stories and lives of leaders.
All right, thanks very much, Irish. And let me now quickly shift the gears from LEH to our guest today, Pavan. So, as I mentioned, I met Pavan about 28 years back. Next one, please. Yes. I was joining Pepsi. I came from an organization, a great organization in India, but I was working in the factories. And I must say, I was a little bit out of place in this very fancy work environment in the Pepsi world and a little quieter, trying to find my own feet. And then I meet this guy who probably joined maybe a week before I joined the organization. And this guy was easygoing, connecting very well, connecting very easily, and reached out to me and gave me that reassurance or confidence that I could be part of this new environment or new atmosphere I was joining. And then since then, I've been watching and observing Pavan. So we have had some great moments together in the organization, going through some of the toughest challenges of our professional career. But what I saw in Pavan was this deeply grounded person who was calm under pressure. What I remember of him is dealing with very, very tough situations with a smile, with a very dry and dark sense of humor, which we'll probably taste a little bit of that in the conversation today. And as I saw him grow and saw him make an impact in his professional life, I was always inspired that you can be who you are and still create the right impact and still create, a very, very positive impact on the businesses you lead and on the people you lead. And then I heard from Pawan that he was making a big choice, sidestepping from a very, very successful trajectory of a professional career to start something which he truly believed in, enabling our newer generation or younger generation to connect, cutting across the boundaries, ethnicities, and differences. So, in the world which we are part of today, which is so focused on differences, he looked at commonalities and he looked at what he can do to bring people together. And that, as I said, a lot of these influences actually inspired me in my own journey to do what I do and start LEH. So, without a lot of details, because I'll let Pavan talk about his life, I know a bit of it, if not all of it, but I would like you to hear and get inspired. And then we will get into a kind of a conversation between Pavan and I, followed by your questions. So, over to you, Pavan.
Hey, thank you, Atul. My preference would be that you continue to talk good things about me for the next 1 hour. It's lovely to listen to people saying good things about.
I'm going to send you a bill after the conversation.
Delighted to be here. And as you know, I'm a big fan of LEH and the work that you folks are doing. For me, what's most important is when secondhand you hear about the work that someone is doing, and without any provocation, when people come back and tell you about their transformative experiences, it's just delightful to hear some of the stories. So before I jump in, I took a quick peek into the participants list. I see a few familiar names, which means that I won't be able to lie. I'll have to keep honest. I won't be able to exaggerate. But if I do, all those people, please keep quiet. Don't call me out on that. Let me share a bit of my story. So if we can go to the next slide. Yeah. I'm going to share my life and my lessons. Let me start with uh, what I've been known for most of my life. Can you go to the next slide? So this PepsiCo has been my calling card, the tip of the iceberg, what the world has known me for the last 25 years. And more so in the later part of my career, as I became more and more senior, I found new friends. Obviously, people like to associate with senior people, but also within my family, within my extended family, uh, Pawan was more about the guy who works for PepsiCo, who's the SVP of HR, right? And the more that happened, that became my personal calling card, my business calling card, my identity, and everything else. And I wasn't too sure whether that's the way I wanted to leave this world. If you can go to the next slide. And I kept thinking about what are the other influences. I said, let me, for a minute, invert that iceberg. Let me not be the SVP HR. Let me look back on who I am, what are the influences that I've had. And my personal calling card, just to introduce you to some of the key players there, my father's from the armed forces. My mother passed away 10 years back. She was a housewife. She was awesome. She was my best friend. I used to play cards with her. I used to play Scrabble with her. We used to go out for lunches. And I'll tell you a little more about why she was so awesome. My brother is a global HR leader. My wife is a leadership trainer and coach. So you see a theme of human resources. In fact, there was a time when my father got so inspired that my brother, me, my wife, all of us were in HR. He started advising people on hiring and firing decisions. We had to stop him before he did any damage. My daughter is in grade 12. Uh, I have the countdown in front of me, 146 days to go. It's going to be devastating when she goes to college. Today, exactly 146 days. Tomorrow will be 145. Day after will be 144. I'm heartbroken, but more about that when we talk personally. And we have two rescues, Ladli and Leila, who complete our family. Next slide, please. That's a quick visual of the family. My parents on the left, huge influence on my life. My daughter who controls me completely. My wife who advises me on an ongoing basis. And my two dogs who provide unconditional love under any circumstance. So I was talking about the iceberg of being the SVP HR and then inverting that iceberg. Can we go to the next slide? As I looked at, you can play the full slide, Dutch. Yeah. As I looked at the iceberg, I said, I have to shake this. I cannot possibly continue my life being known for just being in a multinational company. There was something restless always about me as a person. And I said, this is the time to take stock, looking at my family, what they've given me, looking at my circumstances. And I sat down and I did a balance sheet. If you can go to the next slide. Just in terms of what values did I get, what was my childhood like, what were my dreams, because it was truly an inflection point of what would be my next role in corporate. Was I enjoying myself? What is it that I really wanted to do? And when I did this inverting the iceberg, I said my family values punctuality. My dad was in the armed forces. He was manic. He never ever screamed at me for bad grades. But if I was late by a minute to the dining table to have a meal, I used to get punished. So there were some values that were constantly ingrained, conscious about money. They migrated from Pakistan when the partition took place, and they came with nothing. And there's always this thing about do your best with whatever you have. And the third aspect was dependability. When you say something, you do it. No one should remind you, whether it's your friends, family, work, whatever it is. My childhood, I moved around a lot, 10 different schools. I was really an average Joe at studies. And I think maybe 1 year out of the 12 years of school, I may have crossed 60%. And like I said, my mom was a friend. She really celebrated. She sent sweets to everyone. And people were surprised that here's a guy who scored 61 and his mother sending sweets. But that was it wasn't something that interested me, studies. This whole uprooting and rerouting, I created friends and open relationships everywhere that I moved from. And my biggest strength became about fitting in any new circumstance. In fact, my mother used to say, drop this guy in the jungle and he'll make friends with the tiger. Um, And I realized when I entered the corporate world that uh, that feeling of trying to fit in versus stand out became a big element. Atul mentioned any newcomer, I used to go and say hi because I wanted to feel um, within the fabric. And corporate life, unfortunately, was always about standing out in order to get promoted, in order to get career moves, and so on and so forth. I had a very rich imagination, fueled by diverse life experiences. I always saw the funny side of things. Somehow, it was my dad has a great sense of humor. Probably seeing him laugh at most of things in life, I picked up a few things in life. And through my childhood, I was the agony aunt at the age of 5. I remember kids when I was in grade 6, 7, 8, much older than me, coming and talking to me, seeking my advice, whether it was about a crush that they had or problems at home. Uh, so, some childhood experiences, my family values, uh, when I took stock, I said, there is a lot out there that can help me think differently to the path that I have taken. My dreams at that stage, when I joined the workforce, were very simple. And again, it's an important context which will come up later. My ultimate dream in life was to own a two-bedroom house, and those who are in India will know Maruti Esteem. It was a deluxe car in India at that time, which had just been launched. That was the ultimate, the pinnacle of my aspirations and my dream. Let's go to the next slide. Just taking stock of all this, I when I reflect back on the core me that entered the workforce, that truly is me. It was clearly that I'm a very practical person. I'm not academic. I was underconfident in public. I was self-confident in private, in terms of my own abilities to find solutions and look at situations in very, very different. I was very disciplined with the armed forces background, but with a streak of irreverence always. Authority for me was to be respected, but it was not about respecting it so much that they take over your life. I always had this genuine interest in people to try and find out who they are, where are they from, what drives them, what motivates them, etc., etc. And then this innate ability, because of the schools that I studied in and people that I interacted with, I had this ability to get along with anyone from the shop floor to the C suite. I was absolutely comfortable having a full conversation of 2 hours, 3 hours, sitting down and getting to know or representing myself. Uh, the last couple of things that I discovered about me in this whole journey of inverting the pyramid, the iceberg, was that I look for non traditional solutions to create real impact. And over a period of time, I have a huge, huge bias for the underdog. And I did this exercise only because I was getting more and more restless with what I was known for. And I wanted to do something different. But before doing that something different, I wanted to do a stock taking of what do I really want. I didn't want to jump into from a SVP HR to another SVP HR role, or do something that I would 2 years again later wonder why I got into it. And when I did this entire exercise, if you can go to the next slide, I started the process of redreaming, redreaming what my future, what I wanted to do, where I wanted to create impact, and how I wanted to create impact. I spoke to a lot of people who advised me against it. A lot of people told me, "Are you crazy? You're leaving a multinational company, big bucks, secure life, to take a risk." But uh, when you get to that stage of your life, when you want to really, what's going for you is not enough, And I talked about my dreams about a 2-bedroom house and a Maruti car. When you far surpassed your dreams, it truly is time to take a punt that you always wanted to take. And I jumped into something that I didn't know too much about. The only thing I wanted to do was create impact, and create impact in a very different way. If you can go to the next slide. When I did this redream, this is the video of my resignation. If you can play the video. I changed my calling card, and I said I have to make a public declaration that I am not the SVP HR anymore. I love PepsiCo. It was a great organization. And the whole thing was making that public statement so that I couldn't hide. I had to deliver on a commitment to myself, and I had to deliver on a public commitment that I am going down a path where I'm going to leave everything and start a social venture. And that's where my life completely changed. My calling card disappeared. I started GenWe. Uh, and along with that, a lot of my networks, a lot of my friends disappeared. Because some people are associated with the chair. Some of your relationships and your networks are associated with the chair, and some are associated with you. But it was a fascinating journey of making that decision of looking at your life in hindsight and saying, if this is what all I have, which is below the surface, how do I invert it and how do I bring it above the surface to create true impact and walk away from what can be a very lucrative corporate career? Next slide. So through this entire journey of a 30-year career, I tried to capture, when Atul challenged me about what are my life lessons, I tried to capture my life lessons in 4 points. Yeah. Number one, branded clothes can hide the fact, but you have to strip and face the mirror. Yeah. When you work for organizations, that becomes your identity. But every now and then, you have to question who you really are, what makes you happy, what drives you, what motivates you, what were your formative experiences, and therefore, what do you want to do? And that's what I mean. PepsiCo was a great brand. It hid for 25 years a lot of the fat that I had. And when I really took all that away, and when I looked in the mirror, when I inverted that iceberg, I realized that I wanted much more from life. I wanted something very different from life. And that was my first lesson. It's easy to do that, to come to that conclusion, but it's more difficult with the second point. And that is, the treadmill of corporate life can take away the oxygen from purpose. Your annual appraisals, your stock options, your bonus, your promotions, your moves from one country to the other, the hotels that you stay in, the business class travel, etc., keep you in a certain place, become motivators of your life. And my lesson truly was to get off the treadmill and really breathe and ask, what is it that is important? What is it that I want to do? My third big lesson, as I've interacted now with some wonderful people who are doing absolutely stupendous work, is that capability and competency is not functional or leadership. It is who you are at the core, and that's human. And I've said this time and again, and I've had discussions with Atul as well. If you look at leadership competencies of companies, they talk about setting the agenda, taking others with you, doing it the right way, strategic thinking, global acumen. I would replace all that with one word: being human. I feel it's the most important capability and competency, not only to the organization, but to the world that we live in. And finally, my big lesson was what you dreamt when you were 19, which is a house, two-bedroom house in a Maruti estate, will always be a fraction of what you can achieve. And time and again, it's not about milestones, it's about milestones. When, as we celebrate our birthdays, we're very good at it, 30th birthday, 40th birthday, 50th birthday. You have to recreate dreams, you have to recreate milestones in order to really push yourself out of your comfort zone to do something different. Otherwise, life takes over. Otherwise, you continue to be on the treadmill of life, doing what uh, the world expects out of you versus what you really want to bring to the world. So that's my quick life story. Atul, happy to answer any questions.
Fab.
It's been a fantastic ride, and would love to share any perspectives or thoughts.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Pavan. I mean, as you were narrating, and I think a lot of it, if not all of it, I know because we have had so many conversations over some bread pakoras, Pavan, as you know. And what really inspired me was the choices you made, because having been in a similar kind of so-called treadmill and sidestepping and making choices, it's not easy. In fact, while it's very inspiring to hear from you, maybe that's my first question for you. So it needed a trigger, which you talked about. What was the trigger which made you take a step back and look at your iceberg and shake it up a little bit and see, well, what really matters most in life? And redream. I love this analogy you gave of dreaming at 20, 30, 40, 50. We call it resetting our life stories in LEH. So you made a choice to do that. But it also needs a lot of courage, Pavan. So it needs a trigger for sure, but it also needs a courage to sustain. When you talked about the relationships, where you go from people who connect with because of your title and role in the organization, and then it takes a dip. And then you start to connect with people and build relationships or connections which are much more deeper and fulfilling. But there's a dip which happens. What made you sustain through that phase? What gave you courage to stay on that track despite those initial shocks of, okay, this is how the world is responding to my new direction?
Yeah. So, firstly, Atul, you've traveled the journey. Many people have. It's never easy. Uh, Financial security plays a big role. And there are certain push and pull factors that play a big role. And there were certain push factors. I genuinely felt that HR had lost its identity by trying too hard to get a seat at the table. And increasingly, we were dehumanizing the workplace. And that was a massive disconnect for me, saying you can't lose your identity just to be part of the seat at the table. And because of this, I remember I came back from New York, and I landed at around 8:30. I was jet lagged, and I didn't sleep. I'd written down various notes, this concept about GenWe, this thing about who I am, and I took around 70 or 80 post-its from various places, and I said, the one thing I'm good at is PowerPoint presentations. Let me make a PowerPoint presentation to myself and just look at all these thoughts together. And I started at around 9:30 p.m. At 4:30 a.m., I finished a PowerPoint presentation, and I was convinced that one, I didn't like where the function was going, which is just playing a big role in dehumanizing the workplace. And number two, I was very convinced about what I wanted to do. And at 5 a.m., I sent my boss a message. There was already a lot of other factors at play. I sent a message saying, hey, I'm clear about going. Okay. And obviously, through that decision and after that decision, like you mentioned, there are always some ups and downs. The biggest was that at the end of the month, there was no message from the bank saying your salary has been credited. But every day there were messages from the bank saying this money has been spent. And that for me was a big, big factor to overcome.
Fabulous. Fabulous. So I'm going to intersperse, Pavan. I have a ton of questions, but I have the privilege of calling you and getting the answers to my questions. So I have some of the audience questions which I'm going to bring in so that we can address those. And maybe one is a common friend, Pavan. This is from Kanan. So Kanan, if you can go off mute and maybe bring up your question to Pavan.
Hi, Pavan. Hi, Atul.
Hey, Kanan.
It's wonderful to see you, and I'm more excited and curious to know how things are shaping up with your current experience right now. Especially, I want to see how the younger generation is responding, and more importantly, what is the lesson we can learn from them in the process?
Great question, Kanan, and good to hear your voice. We should catch up. It's been a while. So I feel I'm becoming Benjamin Button. I feel I'm becoming younger every day because of the generation that I'm dealing with. And it's amazing the pushback that you receive. So, GenWe, just to give others who don't know, what we do, it's a digital version of pen pals. We pair young people from different backgrounds online to help them step out of their social bubble, build inclusion, empathy, relationship skills. And while they do that, we do expert sessions on self-confidence, self-awareness, focusing on building 6 real-life leadership skills. So that's what GenWe does. Obviously, I was in love with my idea. And I thought that when I launch, kids will line up. And that didn't happen because the kids did push back, saying, we are quite happy with our friends in the same social bubble. Why do we need friends from different backgrounds? So it's taken us some time and some rethinking on talking to these teenagers, doing focus groups, understanding their needs to recalibrate and change some of the features. But whenever I see the impact, and we ask after every interaction, what have you learned? Kanan, it's been fascinating without giving the answers to the kids to hear some of the feedback, kids saying we become more open-minded. Oh my God, I didn't realize Geeta was like this. And she has the same aspirations of going to a Ivy League school, even though she's from not such a well-to-do family. So small anecdotal feedback that you keep hearing about what they learned, what they experienced when they connected with someone who was from a different country or from a different socioeconomic background is been fantastic. But it's a labor of love, man. I work harder than I used to when I was at PepsiCo. It is absolutely emotionally time consuming, and there is so much that can be done to create impact. We are still scratching the surface.
Fabulous. Thanks.
Thank you, Pavan.
Thanks, Kanan, for a great question. Pavan, very elaborate and clear, crisp answer. More questions coming up, and again, common friends here. So, Maha, you can go unmute. And I love the second part of your question, by the way, but let's start with the first.
Yeah, I mean, if you give an opportunity to ask, I don't stop at one. So apologies, Atul, I went for two. So Pavan, hi, privilege and wonderful to see you. I think two questions. One is like, I mean, it's always, one hears so many inspirational stories, but the reality is life and its journey has ups and downs and bright stories and, dark phases. It'd be very nice to hear from you if there were any relative dark phases, How did they shape you? How did you actually emerge out of it? What did you take from it? I think it'll be so nice to hear if you were comfortable sharing. The second one, of course, as you turn 20 or 30 in the next few years, I've been very curious. What's the next big dream after the esteem and the the multi-bedroom apartment that you probably now own in Dubai? So yeah, the second one is more light, but I think the first one I would genuinely love if you can share. Thank you.
No, it's interesting, Maha, your question. And by the way, hi. Lovely to hear from you. And again, like I mentioned, like I told Kana, let's catch up. We've been very active on WhatsApp. We haven't caught up for a long time. Look, my wife calls me a psycho because she says nothing seems to bother you. And I'm genuinely a 90 to 110 person. So my down is from 100 to 90. My up is 100 to 110. And maybe it's having seen so much as a child, having moved around so much, maybe I am a psycho. So were there dark phases? Absolutely. I mean, when I launched for the first time, and when we did a pilot and we did not get the kind of response, I started questioning myself, saying, I'm investing a lot of money. By the way, GenWe is bootstrapped. I fund GenWe. It's a social impact venture. And I said, how long can I do this if the people who I'm doing it for don't want it? I ran a session on self-awareness. 360 kids signed up. 11 landed up. It was an online session. 360 signed up, 11 landed up. And I said, wow. And that's something that I'm not used to in my corporate life. Like I said, you crack a whip and the room fills up, right? So the self-doubt starts eating you, whether you're doing the right thing. And that's where I just believe talking to people, bouncing off thoughts is such a big emotional crutch. We don't do enough of that in our lives. There is a premium on handling problems on your own because you're supposed to be strong. I feel just reaching out to someone and saying, hey, I feel I'm, pardon my friend, screwing up, help me, give your thoughts, give your perspective, is such a big relief. Not only to get someone else's ideas, but just to share and admit, which sometimes I've always had a problem doing. So while I'm a psycho, um, I've dealt with some of these aspects, but with a philosophy that this too shall pass. Then when you have a certain background, you feel that everything is temporary. And I used to tell a lot of my team, some of them are here, 48 hours. Today, what you're dealing with is the biggest crisis. In 48 hours, it'll be insignificant. And I always remind myself about that. Whenever I go through from 100, when I go to 90, I tell myself 48 hours and you'll probably be at 100 or 105, never at 120. So I hope that gives you a context. Mahan, next dream, I have only one dream. 1 million kids on GenWe in 5 years. That's it. And if we can't get to that, then I would not have, I would have failed everything that I have learned in my life. So
Thanks, Pavan. Thank you, power to the dream.
Thank you. And thank you for always be there to support it, Maha.
Fabulous, fabulous. Great questions, Maha. And what kind of truly heartfelt responses, Pavan. Thank you. I have Saurabh with the next question. Saurabh, you can go on mute and bring up your question.
Yeah, Pavan, hi, how are you doing?
I'm good, Saurabh. How are you?
Great to see you. Thanks to Atul, Lay, and Anuj that Good to meet you. So, we talked about the trigger and the courage. Now, all of that has been done. You are beyond that. But I'm sure sometimes you do miss the treadmill, whatever we may say about the treadmill. When you do, and I'm assuming you do, what do you do and how do you cope up with it?
Yeah, a great question. So what do I miss? I miss the bonus, the stock options. I can't do anything about that. Uh, but honestly, what I miss is the team. Yeah. And the beauty about the team was the energy. And it's the energy. Sometimes it's the adulation. Sometimes you say the stupidest things like a donkey has four legs, and the team will clap and say, "What a strategic thought!" Right? So I miss the adulation. I miss the energy, and it's when I have to get a dose of that. I've been very fortunate that people who travel or when I travel, I end up meeting people. I had a lovely time. I went back to India sometime back, and Pavitra organized a get together of some of the HR folks. I mean, it was an evening full of absolute craziness and laughs and memories and so on and so forth. I meet Atul when he's here, and people who travel in, and I get my dose, my oxygen of the corporate life, some of the corporate life through that. But not, I don't miss it too much. I miss the resources. I'm the only employee of GenWe. So when I have something to be scanned, I do it. When I have to fix an appointment, I do it. When I have to make a presentation, I do it. So I kind of miss the resources. But yeah, it's difficult letting go. But you do have these islands of joy that you can reach out to and really reconnect.
Super.
Thank you.
Beautiful answer. Thanks, Pawan.
Great question, Sarah. Thanks, Pavan. I have a ton of questions coming up, and I'm now worried that I'll not get the chance, Pavan, to ask my questions, so I have to rely on the next call. But let me go over to Dev, again, a common friend. Over to you, Dev.
Hi, Atul. Hi, Pavan.
Hey,
Not a
Dev.
question. Just kind of a comment. I met Pavan for the first time 24 years back, and sometime as leader, we think that leader make impact through their titles and business cards. I learned from Pavan that you make impact when you touch people's heart. And it is the story when I was to be interviewed in PepsiCo. First time I was in the company for the interview. I was waiting, and Pavan comes and who's Devraj, and I start walking with him. And after some time, we get into the next room, and there's a huge, a long table, oval table. We sit on the one corner. Pavan start talking to me, and I'm talking to him very casually. I thought he's the person who's taking me to Pavan's cabin. I thought, wow, it's a big MNC company. If you have to meet the HR director, they just stop in between, and then you will enter Pavan's in his cabin. 5 minutes he's chatting with me, and I'm responding very casually. I'm not even very serious. I thought he's somebody who's taking me away. And so that's after 5 minutes, I realized that he's the HR director. So his humility, humbleness, and simplicity really touched my heart from that day onwards. So thank you, Pavan. That's what I relate to. Yeah.
Thank you, Dev. And thank you for reminding me of the first meeting. I remember very clearly, and after the meeting, we were chatting near the elevator for quite some time, even though the official interview time was over, because I was fascinated by your transition and your story, Dev. I was inspired by it.
Thanks,
Thank
Dev. Thanks, Pavan. Just a quick comment that Dev's first meetings are always this exciting. Now I realize after listening to this, because my first meeting with him was on a HD motorcycle in Parvanu. And I think he brings that drama with him all the time, which is so fascinating. Let, let me let me go to Sudip. Sudip, you can come off mute and bring up your question for Pavan.
Hi, Pavan. Great to see you. And when we were together in the campus, and you were the wicketkeeper of our team, and I was the bowler. It was great to have your steady hands and not someone who never lost his cool even if I got hit for a 4 or a 6. And good to see that you have maintained that equanimity. I found something interesting, which you said that more than leadership and functional competencies in a company, the core human values are so much more important to define sustainable success. Now that if you were to go back to the corporate world, and how would you operationalize that thought? Because it's not, while conceptually one agrees, but how would you operationalize that?
Yeah, no, great questions, Paul, and good to hear your voice. It's been a while. So how do you even when I was in my role small, PepsiCo has some great systems, 360-degree feedback and organization health survey, etc., etc. I I used to challenge it even then, and I remember we introduced something called Connect. Yeah, and Connect was a very simple 6 questions that your team was asked about how you connect with them. And it was all about human interactions. It wasn't about, does he give you feedback on a weekly basis? Does he coach you and all that? Right? It was 6 or 7 human behaviors. And that became a roaring best practice in PepsiCo. Obviously, when something gets globalized, lots of bells and whistles get added and questions get changed. But I was of such a, I believed in it so firmly that we introduced it, that human concept, human behavior in the organization. I remember I went back to India in 2004, and there was a sales conference, and Kanan would remember this. Right? And sales conference is all about rah, rah, rah. And I gave out awards called the Munna Bhai Awards. Kanan and his boss were the recipient of a stethoscope. And the whole concept was that this is a business unit that really put their arms around their teams and created an atmosphere which motivated, got people to deliver their best. So I firmly believe that you have to challenge organization norms of recognizing leadership versus human behavior. I presented, in fact, to the board once on the difference between return on investment, ROI, and ROIE, which is return on invested emotions. And I said return on invested emotions always will be 3 times higher than return on investment. You'll get 15%, 20%, 25% on capital. On emotions, you can get 300%. I have always been, and which is why my disconnect small when the fact that HR wanted to be at the seat of the table, and business wanted HR to focus on productivity, and we did hot desking, and we did back offices and stuff like that. As we stripped away the human element of the workplace, I said, this is not something that I enjoy.
Fabulous. Sudhir, thanks very much. Great question. And what a response, Pavan. And, I think all of us who've been in this space and have seen a lot of that happening, sometimes we take the easy way out. We do stuff which is expected. And it takes, again, vision and courage to step up and do what you decided to do or chose to do. I know we are basically heading towards the end of this conversation, and it doesn't feel like we are already 1 hour into this dialogue. And I know it's very late. For some of you, I can see, Maha, it's probably 9 o'clock already in the evening for you. I am going to take the liberty of asking the last question. How about that? Because I am the host of this conversation, although there are more questions in the dialogue box. So I just, make a choice to use my authority. So Pavan, success in the present world is defined in a very linear way. And I think we were all part of that for a very, very long time, till the time you really build that courage, take a sidestep, and start to look at life in a much more broader context. And then you start to see, well, what does this look like? And I feel typically when it's a lot of people, probably everybody does it, but maybe they do it when it's too late. So what's your advice, especially to those who are starting their career, especially your audience at GenWe? They are just building their dreams around or aspirations around what they would like to see. And then a lot of us who are advanced in their careers and they're already reaching a stage where as they call, moving from success to significance. What would be your advice to those who look at the way the world defines success, which is very linear?
Yeah, it's a great question, Atul. Whether you're in school or you're in the corporate, the one thing that we know is scorecard keeps changing every year. The
Yes.
subjects keep changing, the scorecard keeps changing, more gets added. And I would say just being aware that on the scorecard, you need to put some of your personal elements. You need to just reconceptualize, redream your scorecard. Because otherwise, life will take over. It is built in a way that you continue doing what you're doing. And that's why I talked about the milestones or the milestones. The best is to do it at, you're celebrating your birthday, it's an important birthday. Just think of your scorecard, because now you're a father. At 25, you are not a father. At 30, you're a father. Your scorecard has to change. If it doesn't change, there's something wrong.
That's it. Well said.
So it is that whole thing about, see, you have to be aware when you're listening to music, there is some music that makes you want to dance. There's some music that makes you sad, and that music is a metaphor for roles, for bosses, for organizations. You have to know, you have to feel that music. You have to let yourself feel that music. And if you're feeling happy, great, go dance, enjoy the music. But if you're not, then you have to give it time to breathe, to think, to reconceptualize, to redream, to pause, to reflect and say, where is it that I need to change my scorecard?
Fabulous. Great. Well, thanks so much, Pavan, for joining us on this conversation. I mean, I can't tell you personally how excited, inspired I am, and continue to get more energy looking at you and watching you, what you're doing. I think it gives me the fuel to keep going with what I intend to do. Thank you very much to everyone who decided to join this session, late hour of the day or morning or start of your day. We will continue to bring more guests, more inspirations like Pavan. So watch out for LEH Dialogues and sign up for it. And it's a conversation which we all enjoy and grow from. So yeah, please make sure that you're signing up for our future guests, our future dialogues. Big thanks to Pavan. Big thanks to my team. Irish, wave your hand. You've been working hard to set it up, working with Pavan. Sophia, wherever you are, come on the screen and wave your hand. You've been amazing support getting us into this conversation. And the rest of the team, great to see you. Have a wonderful rest of the day. LEH team can stay for a minute on the call and rest. Everybody, so nice to see you. Till the next dialogue.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Pavan. Thanks a lot.